might can exert a pressure.
Right. You know science. Can you help us with our space arc?
Yeah, we have a problem we're trying to solve.
So, you know...
Don't crash, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. So you know the allegory of the cave.
The
Plato's
Greek,
cave.
Yeah, the Greek philosophy.
Yeah. Okay.
Thought experiment.
Do you know this is water?
So this is the idea. Like you were using the analogy that about how fish don't know that water exists. You were saying something about fish not knowing.
Fish aren't really aware that they're in water.
Yeah.
It's kind of if you're aware of your context, then it helps you deal with a bunch of stuff. And, you know, that's something you kind of gain over experience. But, so if we took a fish out of water and then returned it to the water, it could communicate with the other fish and educate them. But we could go a step further and put the fish in space.
Space!
Using a cannon. And
Yeah.
then, would that fish, I don't know, would that just, like, cause a massive leap in fish society? Like, would they just...
Yeah, if a fish goes to space via cannon, does that mean that fish now have an elevated understanding of where they exist? Because you've gone from this one medium to a different medium to a completely different medium.
But the problem is we need 2 of every animal up there.
Yeah.
Because
they need to tell somebody else.
Yeah. Well, the fish would certainly be elevated when it's on that parabolic trajectory.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you fire it at escape velocity.
It just keeps going to like 10.
What about
Different conic section.
What about
Yeah.
a geostationary fish? That way you can always know that the fish is
we
right
need
above
like
you.
thrusters or something on the fish so it could
Yeah, you would
maintain.
you would need to launch the fish with some form of thrust to
Right.
change the orbit.
Can you not actually launch into a geostationary orbit without additional thrust?
No, so
I legitimately did not know that. That's
so if you always have to make an insertion burn
okay.
if you want to be in orbit. Like your choices when you launch from the ground is either you come back, you either go up and hit the Earth, or you keep going or you are going fast enough. You go up and you come back down and hit the Earth, or you are going fast enough. Magic talkie stick.
Yeah, we'll get it closer to you. Don't worry.
Sorry, I'm trying to do one too many things at the same
That's
time.
kind of the point.
Yep. Welcome.
If you need to abandon one of them, let us know.
Okay. I will go a bit slower. You either go up and you come back down, or you are going so fast that you keep going up.
Mm.
So you need to change your velocity to go into orbit.
So the fish need jetpacks.
That is one
or some
way
sort of insertion vehicle.
you can change their... I'm not sure how much delta V a jetpack can provide, even to a fish.
Would the fish would the salmon need to go home for spawning? They can go up they can go up waterfalls and stuff.
Yeah, they can leap up water.
They can get a lot of speed going.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they could just swim their way into
a
orbit.
higher orbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but these salmon are used to swimming in. They're used to fishing in water. That's not quite as stupid a saying because salmon are carnivorous. But salmon are used to swimming and jumping out of water. They're probably not going to be very used to space jumping.
Mm.
I have a question.
Yes.
So considering the fact that we already have a bunch of fish that have left the water, such as flying fish and various marine mammals that will jump out of the water, then go back into the water, and obviously they have not communicated such knowledge because they still have the fish don't understand outside of water. If we launched them into space and they came back, would they even be able to truly communicate the concept?
Maybe they just keep it to themselves.
They'd be thought as madmen, madfish.
Yeah. How is fish society going to react to these? Will fish society? how is fish society going to react to this revolution in
They may be
fish
burned as witches.
worldview?
Which would be tough to burn them underwater.
No, I believe in the fish. I think they could figure it out.
Oh, it's even
All right.
worse. They can't drown them.
I think.
Travis here.
Yeah, I think we have. There's a much simpler way of doing this. What we do is we bring some fish eggs up in the space shuttle, have the fish born in space, and then when they come spawning time, they'll just go back up naturally.
Oh, perfect.
Right, because that's where they're born.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, what about flying fish? They could get a head start.
Right? Yeah. The flying fish will just keep
Going.
flying.
I only see one small problem in this.
Oh, really?
That
Only
the,
one?
the shuttle isn't flying anymore.
Well, I'll have to be on the space station then.
Yeah. Other launch providers are available. Although certain don't get me started on a certain launch company's satellites.
That plan only works for salmon.
Yeah. Oh, but that plan, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, flying fish don't have to do that. For some reason, salmon got the real crappy deal on that one.
There's other fishes that and fish. Well, I don't want to get into the what is a fish discourse. I actually no. I am going to present an opinion. I think a fish is a useful bit of taxonomy. I think having a term for all vertebrates that aren't pteropods is a useful term. But the example I was going to give for another fish that has it's still in water, but has a very long migration to breed is eels. That some go to I think eels are a fish that go from freshwater to saltwater to breed. If I'm
I think that's correct.
Which is,
But
which is the opposite of what salmon do.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm a space wizard, not a fish wizard.
Okay, fair.
I mean, it's from, was it the QI people, they're like, there's no such thing as a fish.
Yes.
But it's in the same way as, I mean, even we were talking about musical genres, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole thing of like, whenever
You attempt taxonomy.
whenever you attempt to put, especially things in the natural world, in the real world, into little boxes, there'll always be exceptions. You know, you can't. And yet, that doesn't mean that those categorizations are useless.
Right.
Just because they're not perfect, they still tell you something about it. You
I'm
know.
having flashbacks to the music genre conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's just because, you can't define something absolutely doesn't mean that it isn't a useful categorization.
To be serious for a moment, I was a astronomer for many years. I am no longer a professional astronomer. The short version I tell people is the pandemic derailed my career. But one
Such
of the
is the way.
but academia is dicey enough without getting a pandemic in there. But there were a lot of arguments in my field about classification and basic questions about what is a galaxy and what is a star cluster. There would be endless debate about and
any categorization that includes all of the things but none of the things you don't want it to include will almost always be ineffective.
and different classifications are useful for different purposes.
Right.
And it's sort of like, are your classifications based on, so again, to use the astronomy example, is this classification based on what it looks like or how it forms? Because two things can form the same way, but end up looking very different. And two things can look very similar, but form different ways. and what is the better way to do? Which way do you base your classifications on? Because sometimes you can only do the classification based on what they look like. You don't know the
You don't know the history.
you don't know the history. But other times when you're trying to answer other questions, so.
When I mean, I always find it fascinating when you get into like when things become into like legal thing areas, because for the purposes of like laws, they do have to very precisely define things, because then it gets connected to legal situation, which is why you get these sort of silly situations where it's like, you know, whatever, the stuff that Subway uses to make their sandwiches is not legally bread in a certain context, which is only kind of true in the sense that like it's taxed at a different rate than other things. Anyway,
I
but-
think there's jurisdictions where it would not be legally considered bread.
yeah,
Is it,
but
I
but
think
the
it's
idea of like legal bread.
Because it's sugar cube.
yeah. One of those two, I can't remember.
Yeah, right. Isn't it cake?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's considered.
And then you've got Jaffa cakes, which aren't cakes for the taxation purposes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Right. 'Cause biscuits are like a really tightly defined thing in the UK.
But yeah, but it's like that is a very definite categorization, but it's in that context, in the context of like legal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody was like, I'm bringing a cake to the party, and they bring a loaf of Subway bread, you would be disappointed.
Yeah.
What is it? Knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
Ah, yeah, yeah.